After the tightest of finishes, Manchester United are still the kings.
This is Ronaldo.
Ronaldo! Out of this world!
Oh, brilliant goal, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh, it's a beautiful bit of football and it's a stunning finish.
He leaves no margin for improvement.
This is Rooney.
Nani slips in. Wayne Rooney! Oh yes! Oh yes! Wayne Rooney's first goal of the season is a beauty, and it's coming up.
This is Tevez.
Rooney back to Tevez. Tevez with a shot. His first Champions League goal.
Touch, turn, goal. A cutback, a header, a knuckleball that moves like a trick of light. It's been a long time since a team felt this dominant, but if you're paying attention, you'll see why. The pieces clicked like gears, a defense that didn't blink, a midfield that never panicked, a front line that hunted in packs, not a purple patch, a plan. So, what made that Manchester United side frightening? And why did opponents look beaten before the whistle? Let's talk about it. Go back to the season that defined them. Not simply a highlight reel, a blueprint. United didn't just win, they controlled. They could grind you 1-0 on a wet night or run you over 4 at Old Trafford. They could suffer without breaking, then punish a single mistake. It was balance. Balance is the word people ignore when they talk about super teams. They point at the goals, the celebrations, the free kicks that bend physics. They miss the structure underneath. Sir Alex Ferguson built a side that did the simple things with ruthless consistency and let the stars do the rest. One piece at a time, one standard for everyone. Start with the back. Edwin van der Sar. Calm hands, calm voice, calm feet. Crosses caught, angles narrowed. Penalties treated like puzzles he'd already solved. In front of him, Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic, the definitive partnership of the era. One read space like a map, one attacked contact like a wall. Rio cleaned up behind the line, stepped into midfield when the press needed a trap. Vidic made the box a place strikers visited at their own risk. Together, they turned high balls into routine headers. Fullbacks mattered. Patrice Evra didn't walk, he glided up the touchline, underlapped, overlapped, recycled, then sprinted back to win a duel he had no right to reach. On the other side, Wes Brown gave you reliability that never asked for a headline. If a winger wanted the byline, Brown said no. Gary Neville missed most of the year and returned with cameos in January. It could have been a crisis. It wasn't, because the standards at the back never dropped. Now the thermostat in the middle. Michael Carrick and Paul Scholes. One played like a metronome that could see 3 passes ahead, one took the game's temperature and turned it down until even great teams lost their nerve. Carrick's open body shape, the shoulder checks, the switch with a single touch, the simple pass that broke a press because it arrived early. Scholes on the half-turn, choosing moments, stealing time from pressure. Around them, Owen Hargreaves ran the grim yards, pressed, tackled and set the press. Darren Fletcher gave glue. Anderson showed courage to receive in tight spaces and carry the ball out. Together, they made control look casual. Then, the terror up front. Cristiano Ronaldo still operated predominantly from the right, but he was a solution. Back post headers, far post tap-ins, step-overs as misdirection, explosion through a gap that didn't exist when the pass was played.
It's been a great day. I think the front players' performance today was absolutely marvellous. The movement, the penetration was terrific.
He scored every kind of goal because he arrived at the right time, not because he stood and waited. The secret, though, was the other two, Wayne Rooney and Carlos Tevez. They did the dirty work of 2 strikers and the artistry of 2 10s. They pressed without asking for credit. They swapped, combined and created overloads. They dragged centre-backs out of shape.
Drew, napping, Ronaldo, 1-0 Manchester United. Mistake by Frank Drew, and hasn't Cristiano.
And left Ronaldo arriving unmarked. If you tried to fight, they fought. If you tried to play, they played better. Identity matters. Out of possession, they looked like a 4-4-2 because it scared you into simple passes. In possession, they flowed between 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-3 without a hand raised. Press triggers from the front were fluid. Tevez often led centrally, Rooney alternated across, and Ronaldo waited on the turnover to knife into the box, while Carrick and Scholes closed lanes behind them. Evra flying, Brown holding, Carrick angling the next lane. It looked improvised, it was rehearsed until it felt like instinct. You want proof? Pick nights that still echo.
Past Toure, but not past Zambrana. Given straight to Paul Scholes! What about that? What about that?
Barcelona smothered at the Camp Nou, then cut open at Old Trafford by a Paul Scholes strike that lifted the roof. Roma handed over two legs, authority in Rome, then composure at Old Trafford. Lyon squeezed until they snapped. A league decider under rain and pressure, a penalty met with cold blood, a veteran sliding a clincher like it was a training drill, and a final in the Moscow downpour where concentration and nerve mattered more than clean boots. A captain slipped, a keeper guessed right and saved the night. Nerve, not luck. The reason this side felt inevitable wasn't just the starting 11, it was the answers on the bench. Ryan Giggs to slow the game down and see passes others missed. Nani to stretch a defense and force a fullback to turn. Park Ji-sung to erase a build-up pattern with one relentless shift. Louis Saha, when fit, to give a different reference point. A long ball outlet, a near-post run. John O'Shea to plug whichever hole appeared and look unbothered doing it. Everyone knew their job. Nobody needed 10 touches to prove a point. Coaching shaped the edges. Carlos Queiroz tuned distances, triggers, and rest defense. Ferguson set the level. He trusted youth, demanded obedience to the plan, and still let genius breathe. He could turn a game with one substitute or by moving a trigger 5 yards. He didn't yell for cameras, he stared, and the room understood. Set pieces were a weapon, not a foothold. Corners had roles. First contact, screen, second ball. If the delivery missed a head, it fell to a red shirt anyway. Free kicks were science experiments. Ronaldo's knuckleball from the edge, Scholes and Giggs ran most of the restarts, and the quick one that caught you sleeping, with Hargreaves an occasional option. When opponents sat deep, restarts turned into open play with a whistle and a rehearsed run. People remember the knuckleballs and the dances by the corner flag. The foundation was repetition. The front three pressed as a chain. The midfield supported in lanes, not by chasing shadows. The back four held a line that looked risky until you realized it gave Van der Sar a simple view of everything. They didn't dive in, they delayed until help arrived. Then they took the ball and the air left the stadium. Adversaries weren't soft. Chelsea went punch for punch. Arsenal played with beauty and menace in the fall. Liverpool were stubborn and cruel. United took heavy shots and stayed upright. That's what greatness is, not beating the weak, but thriving when the strong are at full strength. Flaws existed, finishing dipped sometimes, and 1-0 had to be enough. A fullback missed months and the system absorbed it. There were days when Ronaldo got kicked and kicked again. The response wasn't a meltdown, it was a deeper breath, a longer spell of control, a switch of play to the far side, a run that dragged a centre-back, a gap that appeared like a door, discipline over drama. How it was built, not in a rush, signings that made sense. Evra and Vidic arrived and looked human for a minute, then turned elite because the environment demanded it. Carrick replaced panic with passing lanes. Hargreaves made pressing a tool, not a hope. Young players learned standards by living next to them. Veterans didn't block paths, they widened them for those who kept up. Micro-tactics that win seasons hid in plain sight. Out-of-possession triggers from the front three were fluid. Tevez often led centrally, Rooney alternated across, and Carrick and Scholes blocked lanes. If the pass went wide, the nearest forward sprung, while the rest tightened. And when the switch came, Ronaldo's starting spot became a sprint lane, not a jog. Evra's underlap pulled a winger inside and made a centre-back ask a bad question. Carrick's first touch moved the picture before the press arrived. Scholes took one touch less than expected, and the lane opened. Late-game management was a skill, not luck. Time slowed. Throw-ins delayed without wasting. Fouls won in zones where the routine lived. Substitutions targeted your weakness, not their bench minutes. A game that looked like chaos turned into small decisions. United had practiced hundreds of times. That is the difference between a hopeful team and a side that thinks in trophies. Legacy followed. A Ballon d'Or for the leading man, more silver, more knights, more standards. But the deeper legacy was cultural. Players left with a definition of normal that would shock most rooms. Normal meant being brave to receive with your back to the goal on the edge of your own box. Normal meant tracking a runner into the 93rd minute because you tracked him in the third. Normal meant pressure wasn't noise, it was fuel. If you want to understand why this team frightened opponents, look at the small things. Brown tight to the winger before the ball even arrives. Evra inviting an inside pass because a trap is waiting. Rio pointing, stepping, then stopping because he knows the pass won't dare. Vidic taking the first hit and winning the second ball because he wants both. Carrick checking, opening, switching, Scholes pausing so the whole stadium inhales, then playing the pass nobody else saw. Park shadowing a build-up like a shadow. Tevez bouncing to his feet and stealing the next pass. Rooney sprinting 40 yards to make a tackle that changed the crowd's voice. Ronaldo timing a run so he's arriving, not waiting. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was a checklist repeated every week. Shape, work, detail, discipline, personality. The moments we remember. The screamers, the headers, the saves in the rain. Sat on top of habits that never changed. Under pressure, their default settings were stronger than your best plan. Was this the scariest modern Manchester United? Some will say 99, some will point to 2011's control. The argument is the compliment, but this side gave you both modes. Control when control was needed, chaos when chaos hurt most. They could drag you into deep water, or carve you open in 3 passes. They could look bored for 80 minutes and still be exactly where they wanted to be. This is Manchester United at their most inevitable. Touch, turn, goal, a backline that didn't blink, a midfield that kept the pulse steady, a front three that hunted in packs, a manager who set standards and never let them slip. When the margins shrink and the rain starts to fall, who still finds a way? They did.